record on this computer. Okay, everybody, this is being recorded. If you wanted to turn off your camera, like I said to the other group when I did it last time, it's too late. You're already being recorded. But you can turn it off now. And thank you very much for coming to yet another one of my sessions. I really hope I'm not going to flub this one up. I watched the recording of my last one and I thought, oh no. And it was recorded and everything too. But let's see. It has been about 25 years that I have been doing this. I have been helping people buy Macintosh computers all the way back to when the Macintosh was not being run by Steve Jobs, and he was actually working at another computer company, and they were using 46 Motorola processors. And I was helping people when they switched over to PowerPC processors, and I've been doing the same thing for all of these years with Intel processors. Now, I will say that I don't know everything about Macintoshes, but I think I'm good enough at it that I can help people with managing their budgets, understanding what it is that they should think about when they're purchasing, warning them against certain things, telling them, well, you know, you might want this for the future. So I started out with a few questions, or I want to start out with a few questions that you might want to either write down or keep in mind, because eventually if you start asking me personally, Jose, what about my personal case? I'm going to ask you these questions. Okay, number one, how much money can you afford to spend on a new Macintosh? And you can think of it as a range, not just, you know, absolute maximum, but as a range. And you don't necessarily have to know what kind of computer it is or anything yet. You sort of just have to start thinking about, well, I can probably afford 200,000 yen. I can probably afford 150,000 yen. Okay. Next, what are you going to do with this thing? You know, probably most of you are thinking that you're going to use this for school. But is there any other purpose that you have in mind? Are you thinking about maybe, I don't know, doing videos? You want to edit videos. You maybe want to learn how to do music, or maybe you are a musician and you've picked up all of this stuff from your brother who's also a musician. He says, oh yeah, this keyboard will plug into a computer, and you go, oh great, but you don't know how to do that. But if you're going to buy a computer, you may as well get one that's capable of doing that. And they're not all capable of doing, well, okay, let me take that back. They're all capable of doing it, but you need something that's good, that can handle the task. Okay. You obviously have a computer right now, or unless you're, of course, logging in with your iPhone or your iPad, but I'm just assuming if you're an educator, you probably do have a computer. How much did you spend last time? How much did you spend on your computer last time? And did you find that that computer was enough for what you wanted to do? And have you thought about the idea that maybe you're going to have to spend a little bit more? If you're thinking about your budget as being the same as what you spent last time, but last time you were a bit disappointed in what it could or couldn't do. Okay. There are a few other specific questions, but you know, there's no sense in giving them out to everybody at the same time. But I mostly wanted to do this in general, give you a general sense of what you needed to know, a general sense of what I think is good general advice. And then we can start like a big roundtable discussion. There is at least one other person here who I know is very good with Macintoshes, and that's my good friend Bill Pello down there. And he'll have a few other things to help cover the knowledge base of what is known and what is not known. He helped me with some information that I want to pass on to you guys about about purchasing your computer as a JOLT member. Now, if you are not yet a JOLT member, there are a lot of advantages to being a JOLT member, and one of them is that you actually get a not insignificant discount on Apple products. So if you become a JOLT member, you know, you get the SIGs, you get to get discounts on other things like conferences. And actually, do they get a conference discount, Bill, or is it the same for everybody?
No, it's a pretty significant conference discount. And usually 2 meetings are 1,000 yen or 500 yen for non-members. But these days with Zoom, a lot of meetings have been free for everybody. But conferences, yeah, I think we're entering in a time when conferences will be costing money rather than free.
right? And eventually, you know, we are going to return to some semblance of normalcy, and we will be going back to meetings and face to face, and we'll be shaking hands and giving hugs and everything like that. But on top of all that is the fact that there is already an Apple Store discount for educators. So if you're an educator, you can prove you're an educator, okay? You will get an Apple Store discount. You can get that discount even at the Apple Store physically, but you can also get it at the Apple Store on the website. But if I'm not mistaken, you have to go through a little bit of a rigmarole to prove it, especially if you're a part-time teacher. However, if you go through the Jolt Apple Store, because you've been vetted by Jolt and Jolt says, no, this person is an accredited teacher or whatever, you not only don't have to do that rigmarole with Apple because you already did it with Jolt, you get the Jolt discount on top of the Apple discount. So it's about maybe 3 or 4% for the Jolt discount on top of something like the 6, maybe 7% Apple discount. And you're approaching about 10%. So basically it covers the consumption tax. It's beyond not insignificant. It is significant. If you're talking about 200,000 yen, right? You do the math. Okay, so that's my first bit of advice for you. If you're not yet a Jolt member, please do consider doing it. It's going to be good for Jolt. It's going to be good for our educator community. It's good for you, especially because you guys are here thinking about a new Macintosh. Now, let me show you a few things here using my share screen. Now, I was going to show with using my my own personal favorite technique of making me big in the corner, but I can't do that right now for some reason. But this is the Apple Store. If you haven't ever gone to the Apple Store, actually, you know what? I'm going to stop share. I'm going to take a quick poll. In the participants list, everybody, in the participants list, if you don't have the participants list revealed, click participants down at the bottom where it's 2 buttons to the left of the share screen button, and you will see the participants list slide out. And down there, you will see a raise hand button. So raise hand, okay, if you have ever gone to the Apple Store online. Raise your hand if you've ever gone to the Apple Store online. About half of you. Okay, good, good, good. Bill, you don't have a raise hand button?
No, I'm co-host. I can't.
Oh, right. Sorry, I completely forgot.
I'll
Okay,
just say yes.
Thank you very much. So there's that. How many of you who have been to, okay, there's the check mark, and I believe the raise hand button is to the extreme left. So to the left of the yes mark, but it's okay. The yes mark is fine too. Okay, the raise hand button now becomes lower hand. So could you lower your hand? Thank you. Okay, actually, you know what? I'll just clear all. Okay, next question. Of those people, and maybe you forgot to raise your hand, how many of you have purchased through the Apple Store? Actually gone all the way through and put down your credit card number and stuff? Okay, so we're looking about, oh, wow. Okay, no no's. That just confuses me if you push no, right? I only wanted to see who was saying yes. So yeah, we're looking at about better than 50%. So a lot of this will be repetitive information, but there are some people who have never done it. So let's go back to my share. And if you've never been to the Apple Store, and there's a significant number of people who've never been to the Apple Store, it's very, very easy. Just go to apple.com/JP right there. Okay. apple.com/JP. It also responds to apple.co.jp, which was its old URL, and it still responds to that. And you'll come here. Now, if you don't like all this Japanese, I believe the language switch button, I haven't done that in a while, actually. I've pretty much left this in
bottom corner.
Thank you. And let's just move this over. Oh, where are we here? Oh, that's Africa, Asia Pacific. No, I want
I think that's not actually for language, but actually for region.
Yeah.
So that'll change the country of the store. So that's not exactly where we're at.
So I'm looking. Yeah, I haven't done this in a while because I've just left it in Japanese.
The second group, one more down. There.
Yeah, but we're still stuck at Nihongo.
Yeah, Japan doesn't. So you have to use the Chrome browser that automatically translates.
Not going to do that.
Yeah. We speak Japanese in Japan.
Yeah, we speak Japanese in Japan. So for all of you who are dealing with Apple, you should probably be able to learn a little bit to read. But in any case, it's not important because a lot of it is just numbers. And you come up here to the top, click Mac, okay? And you're going to get a view of all the products, and they'll be described in Japanese. Now, if you want to read this...
Jose, could I just quickly, you could also look in another browser at the English one, and it'll go the same way.
Yeah.
So if you're not using the Chrome browser with automatic translation, you could look at the store, like the American store or the Canadian store or whatever, and read all the options, and then look at the Japanese and just click in the same places.
Yep. Or you could have them, if you have a big enough window, you can have them side by side, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I've never noticed, or I was sitting here trying to think, when was the last time I looked at this in English? It's just because it's a bother to go. They've changed the site so much, it's been that long. Anyway, if you want to read all of this in English, and they do actually have some pretty good copywriters, makes you really excited about buying a new computer. Oh, geez, I forgot I turned off my share. Then yeah, go ahead and do what you need to do, because if you go to apple.com, no JP, you're going to get exactly this layout and everything's written in English. In any case, up here is a selection of things that you want to start thinking about. Okay. And there's the MacBook Air, the MacBook Pro. Linda, I think your mic is still on.
Sorry.
That's okay. Okay, so there's the MacBook Air, the MacBook Pro. Okay, the iMac has recently been upgraded, and for some of you who might not know, because professional equipment is so outrageously expensive, a lot of people don't even consider it. There is a new one called the Mac Pro. Be careful when you say Mac Pro. To me, I think of a Mac Pro as opposed to a MacBook Pro, and then of course there is the iMac Pro. Now, for most of us, we're probably down here with the Air, the MacBook Pro 13, and the MacBook Pro 16, and the iMac. Now, this is where you start thinking about your budget. Okay, so let me just show you what I think most likely you'll probably be thinking of purchasing. If you want a desktop computer, okay, you're probably going to be thinking about this iMac in either one of two configurations, the 21 or the 27. And I think I just realized I just jumped without telling you where I went. When you go to any one of these products, you will see this blue Konyu button. And that basically means purchase in English. And it's the blue button. It means to go and actually lay down an order. Maybe you push that button, you're going to start getting more details on what these things are and how they're configured. The base price for the least expensive iMac begins at 120,000 or 121,000 yen. And then it just goes up from there. So if you were considering, oh yeah, I'd love a new computer, I'd love to get an iMac, and it's gonna, I don't know, maybe 85,000 yen, I have to break it to you, you gotta start here. And I literally mean start here. It only gets more expensive from here. I really do not recommend you buy the lowest configuration of any especially iMacs, because it's not hard to upgrade them of any configuration of these computers. The 27, while we're already here, which is personally my computer, begins at this price, 194,000 yen. And don't forget there's consumption tax on top of that. And there are also customization options that we'll look at a little bit later. Okay, so this is where you're beginning if you're considering getting a desktop model. 194,000. So round it off for yourself. 200,000 yen for a 27-inch. For a 21.5-inch, you're going to be looking at about 120,000 yen, just to round them off. Okay. If you are not thinking about an iMac, and a lot of people don't think about iMacs, what they think about are these notebook options. You're going to start with the least expensive option in the MacBook Air, at this price. Okay. 104,000 yen. Not bad, actually, if you consider that by the time you really start decking out an iPad Pro, even an 11-inch iPad Pro, it starts to approach that price. And if you were to deck out an iPad Pro with a keyboard and a pencil, it can actually go beyond that price. It can go to about 115,000 yen. But from here, I want to start hearing from people because actually, apart from me giving you those general questions, how much do you want to spend? What do you want to do with it? I can't give much more specific. I do have some specific recommendations about accessories you might want to think about and other ideas, but I want to hear from you and maybe between me and Bill and who else might be here? Or whoever else wants to chime in, we can start actually like we did at Melody's session, start creating information. I'm not the only expert here. So who wants to begin by saying, Jose, this is my case. What do you think about this? And can you help me? Oh, Stephen Clark, you have a question. Or is your hand still up? You're muted, Steve.
Yeah, that's my hand was still up. Yeah, lower hand. Okay.
Okay, there you go. Okay. Well, then I'll clear all here. Okay. So the question goes out again. Who wants to begin with putting out their case? And we'll start talking about the case. And then everybody, you can just come in, just to make it a big roundtable discussion. Linda, you're thinking, you had a very bitter situation with your MacBook Pro, right? I think it'd be interesting to hear from you. Unless you've got a spoonful of soup in your mouth.
I just finished. I'm hooking up my other computer. Almost every single computer I have ever bought and over the years has had to go back and have something replaced, the motherboard or the logic board. I had a MacBook Pro that had to have every single component replaced before it worked properly. And I used it until it died then. Happily used it. But my most recent MacBook Pro is a 13-inch and it's fully decked out to the max. And the battery doesn't last 3 hours. So that is incredibly frustrating. And the keyboard, some of the keys repeat. So the I key is the worst. The E key, I'll just get multiple I's in the middle of a word.
Yeah, so it repeats, yeah.
So proofreading is a pain in the neck. And if I use an extended keyboard, a separate keyboard, that doesn't happen. But I should have to carry a keyboard with me everywhere I go. All the connectors and let me turn on my camera. I bought this connector. It was 6,000 yen. It has USBs, LAN, the RGB and HDMI connectors, and card readers, and an earphone jack. 6,000 yen. It worked for 5 minutes and it doesn't work anymore.
You're just unlucky.
Yeah.
I don't know if this has everything to do with Macintosh. It's just you're just unlucky.
Yeah, I bought this one and it was 9,000, almost 10,000 yen. And this one works fine.
Okay, Linda, just to get back to Macs, when you got your MacBook Pro, did you leave it plugged into the charger all the time?
Usually, yeah.
Okay, first bad idea. Don't do that.
I was told to do that by the Apple person.
To leave it in the charger all the time?
Yeah.
All the time?
Yeah.
Okay. That's not my current advice. I don't want to contradict Apple and the Apple staff, but I generally tell people don't leave it in the charger unless you feel that you need to, or you come home and it's down to like 80%, 90%, and you can charge it for a couple of hours without hitting 100% and leaving it there all the time. And resultantly, hang on just a sec, Todd. Resultantly, Linda, you've got a battery that doesn't hold its charge anymore.
Well, it never held its charge from the beginning.
Ah, that's
from
interesting.
day one.
Okay. Todd, what did you want to come in with?
No, I was just checking because I don't know either. I wanted just clarification because I heard, but I wasn't sure. I heard it was the 90-20 rule. Like you should
That's
always
fine.
try to keep it let it go to 90. Don't let it go over 90,
Mhm.
and then never let it go below 20. If you can kind of keep your eye on it and do that, it's supposed to maximize.
Yeah. That's the
Yeah,
rough rule.
I don't know if that's true. That's just what I heard. So I'm like checking. Is that true?
The other
I-
problem I have with this MacBook Pro is there's no way I would be able to connect with you if it were not plugged in, because it does not support any HDMI. It doesn't support a YouTube, or no, not YouTube, a USB. I can't connect a USB adapter, and
Okay, we'll handle that one specifically later, Linda. But I wanted to get a little bit more about that battery, and I think I do, but with the Apple guy contradicting my relatively old advice, it might be because they have a new battery chip inside that thing that manages the charging system. But I'm mostly with Todd. You do not let that thing get over 90% for very long, and you do not let it go down past 20% for very long. If you have to, you have to. You know, you have to finish this Excel sheet before you get on board of the airplane, and then maybe you can charge when you get on the airplane. So you know, your mileage may vary, and your capacity to make your decision, of course, is up to you. But generally, roughly 90-20 is a good rule. Now, if the Apple guy said, "Yeah, leave it in all the time," I would probably go and look for where that advice can. It's like science. You go and look for where that can be confirmed. But I haven't been worried about that for a long time. I've had Macintosh computers and I've been using them under those rules, 90-20, 80-30 for a long time. And my batteries generally go well beyond their warranty. Now, what you've got is something
well,
that was,
mine usually do too, but this one didn't.
okay, you've got a lemon. I think, you know, like Rich and I have said that before, you basically got a bad computer. All of its components were bad. And I'm surprised that Apple, I think it's because you got a bit caught in the pandemic, but they're not accepting it for warranty, I think you were saying, right?
Well, I had this MacBook Pro 15 wasn't connecting to my phone. This is the computer that I wanted to sync with my phone, and when I got the phone changed with the 7, and suddenly my phone wouldn't connect. So this computer was my premium interest to get it to work, connect with my phone, and it had to go to Tokyo 5 or 6 times. And in the meantime, I bought this other computer, and I just couldn't be without a computer.
I understand. Those are all like separate kind of, a whole bunch of separate issues just coming up right now. I just wanted to ask a little bit more about that battery. Anyway, beyond Linda, who would like to, sorry, Linda, who would like to put out their case and say, Jose, how about me? I'm in this case. I've got these numbers. I've got this budget. Todd, you want to go?
Yeah, actually, so as you know, audio is big for me, but I am actually I don't know a lot about sound cards and stuff. So the last Mac I bought sucks. It's so bad, the audio. So I'm like, I don't know how, like, any tips on sound cards for Macs? That's it.
There are no tips for sound cards for Mac in the sense that I have any advice about them, because very few people need separate sound cards for Macs. If you're talking about sound just so that you can dabble a little bit with Audacity, maybe a little bit with say GarageBand, you do not need a separate sound card.
It's a new iMac, and it just doesn't sound right. I don't know. You know,
How do you mean it doesn't sound right?
Well, because I've had Macs my whole life and PCs, and it just the audio quality after I use Amadeus or Audacity just doesn't sound that good.
You mean the finished file doesn't sound that good?
Yeah, could be. Yeah, and also even the playback through the headsets on like Zoom or whatever, it just doesn't seem that clear. So, Yeah.
Okay, I didn't want to.
Computer are you talking about?
It's a new iMac, brand new.
Okay, I actually didn't want to get into a troubleshooting thing.
Right.
Sorry, Todd. I mean, like, it's an important thing, but in terms of that, there's so many different
Well,
variables.
no, actually, what I'm saying is I'm going to buy a new. The reason I'm asking, sorry, let me rephrase this. I'm
Okay.
going to buy a new MacBook Air. So, like, any tips, like, you know, for better sound quality, should I get a Pro instead of an Air, or does it matter?
Okay, when you're talking
You
about
know?
when you're talking about quality, you mean just regular playback of MP3 files that you purchase?
No, actually, the recording. Like, the main thing is the
Okay.
recording of the audio capture.
Okay, when you think about an Air versus a Pro, you think about portability and mobility. The only reason why you want an Air is because you don't want that extra half kilo on your shoulder because you're walking around all day. That half kilo in about 2 hours on your shoulder turns into 10 kilos in perception. And it can actually lead to problems because if you don't switch shoulders and stuff like that, that half kilo can make a big difference. And that's why the Air sells really, really well.
So, is the sound card the same in both?
No, the
Off the
sound,
shelf?
the sound card, there isn't a sound card in the MacBook Air, I don't think. If there is a sound chip, it's not a
Sound chip,
card,
yeah.
a sound chip, it'll be better in the MacBook Pro, but the MacBook Air sacrifices a lot of capacity just to make itself super, super thin. That's why the battery doesn't last so long on the MacBook Air, because the battery is much smaller. If you want something better in terms of actual performance, the MacBook Pro is going to be your choice. But the MacBook Air, now here's another thing. Let's say your budget, you figured out, well, you know what, I'm making a little bit more money and my side business is doing really, really well. Another question to consider is, how much can you afford to the point of pain? How much not just do you want to spend, but how much okay, if I really squeeze my wallet, I can make it out to here, because then you start thinking about other options. So for example, if Todd, you were to go with, say, and this also depends on your lifestyle, Todd, I know that you move around a bit and you travel a lot, and a desktop computer wouldn't suit you so well because you move around a lot, and that thing will be sitting at your house when you're out of the house. But for me, my team up has always been this desktop computer and this MacBook Pro, a 27-inch at home and a MacBook Pro when I go out. For the simple reason that if this one goes down, this one backs up, this one goes down,
Yeah.
this one is still my main computer. And at least in an emergency, like I got a Zoom class and I got a readable hard drive, at least I know I can finish the Zoom class. But
Yeah.
let's say you get a MacBook Pro because you want to be portable, but you really want to do your music, but you really realize that you only do your music when you're at home and you're relaxed and it's Sunday afternoon. Okay, well, maybe your team up might be a smaller MacBook Pro with a well-decked out 21-inch iMac. You deck that out with good memory, with a good hard disk. Logic, as far as I know, if it uses the full screen, is actually quite comfortable on a 21-inch. Whereas with me, I do Final Cut Pro, which is video editing, and that definitely needs a much larger screen. Depends on a lot of things, but you also, that's where your budget really changes what it is that you could be considering. What is your budget, Todd?
Well, because I buy computers so often, I always go, the latest version, cheapest model. So usually around $1,000, $1,500 usually.
$1,500. And you don't think that's going to change this time around either?
Just because I buy them so often. Actually, what I might do this time is, because I have the Air and I have the iMac. The iMac is just a glorified TV, basically. I'm going to probably get a Pro to work from home, and then just because to update it, because the Air is like 3 years old now, and then just keep the Air for when I go out. You
Okay.
know?
There are other things to consider too. With the new video cards, even in the MacBook Air, they are now capable of taking a separate monitor that you can purchase for sometimes as low as 30,000. A good one starts at about 60, 70,000 yen. And the external monitor can plug into that extremely light MacBook Air that you bought for portability and mobility. You get home. Those boxes that Linda was showing just before, if you purchase a good one, that can strategically make your MacBook Pro or your MacBook Air replace even an iMac, because the biggest thing about an iMac is that huge screen that makes it so easy to work with a lot of
Yeah.
windows and with certain apps. And we can get into that in a little bit. But
How
let's-
easy is it to hook up to work on my iMac and then use work on my MacBook Air and then use the iMac as the monitor?
an iMac as a monitor.
Yeah.
Okay. You're thinking about buying a MacBook Air brand new, right?
Yeah, because the reason is like, so I don't have to like transfer a lot of the software and stuff. I have so
Okay.
much software, and it's like I don't actually work on the iMac that much.
Okay.
I know that sounds stupid, but I bought it and I'm like, you know what? I just don't like the working from the iMac.
Okay.
So, but I could use it as a monitor, like as a second monitor.
You
know what I
can't
mean?
do that anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you can.
Yeah.
You can. Now, here's just a few caveats. That iMac is at least a year old, Todd, 2 years old.
Yeah, it's like I bought it start of the term for this year.
The iMac, not the MacBook.
The
Air.
iMac. iMac's brand new.
iMac's brand new. So it has USB-C on it?
It's got so many USB ports. I don't know the difference between USB and USB-C.
Okay. USB-C looks like it's a tiny little one, but this is a Thunderbolt 2 port. You see
Yeah.
how it's kind of rounded on one
Yeah.
end? That's
Yeah.
Thunderbolt 2. And USB-C on a MacBook Air is also Thunderbolt 3. Now, if the iMac is using Thunderbolt 3, you get a Thunderbolt 3 cable to connect between the iMac and the MacBook Air. And yeah, it can do that. Using a Thunderbolt bridge, the MacBook Air will run a signal out to the iMac,
thanks.
and it'll share that.
Thanks
Okay.
everybody for showing me the cables. I'm surprised they don't have it like you. I figured it'd be easy to just use Bluetooth.
No, not for images and sound.
No.
No,
Okay.
no. You can't really even do that reliably on 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi. Not reliably, not with the sort of stuff that computers need to do with like high definition graphics and 60 frames per second. It just won't handle.
Okay. Thanks, man.
Okay. No problem. We'll get back to you in just a second. But how about somebody else? Who has another case that they want to throw out there? So there's a lot of things that Todd was considering, but let's see. Lisa, what are you thinking about these days?
Hi. I have a similar concern. I think with the other people, I'll try to keep it out of the troubleshooting domain. But I have 2 old MacBooks, and one is not working. I mean, it's it'll start, but it's not functional. One is working pretty well, but it's starting to get old. So I'm trying to think about when should I switch over to the new one, because I will eventually at what point. And I was also thinking about why I joined the session, and I think is the timely issue is it a good time to buy now or not? Because I know that in April or May, everyone was rushing to get them, and so they were sold out. So my intuition was that if they're sold out, well, maybe they're more expensive, or only the not so good ones remain. Or so is it a good time to buy, or is it the time to hold out? So that's kind of the thing. And so, and with my MacBook issue, so I like my current MacBook because it still has the disk drive, and now they don't.
Yeah.
Now you need it's just so much better because we, as teachers, we use the disk drive a lot. And I got a super drive when I started my current job 3 years ago, and it died. Like it gradually died. Like it started spitting out different kinds of things, and now it won't accept anything. So I now have to get a new disk drive. Like thinking about that, like is it worth to get a new one? And looking at them, the prices have gone up. I used to have, I think it was a 15, not a 16-inch, but I had a 15. I loved the size, but now they're like, yeah, I was looking at them now. Now they're like 25 yen or something, 28 yen. And so like I would like to get a bigger size. And then you were just talking about don't get the least spec one. But if I want a 15-inch, and if I don't get the least spec one, then it's like 28 yen. And then it's like, so what happens if that breaks? Like how long is it gonna last? And so that kind of thing. Can you address any of that?
Sure. Which one would you like me to address first?
Is it a good time to buy?
let me take them in order. Yeah. Well, is it a good time to buy? There are actually a lot of other factors as to whether or not timing is important right now. And one of them is the fact that Apple is about to embark on a very, very important step that it doesn't take except once every 8 or 10 years. And they're going to change the actual chip architecture inside the computer. They're going to go from one type of processor to another type of processor. Without getting bogged down to the discussion about the goods and bads of all of that, that will happen. It will begin happening in terms of products on the shelves that you can purchase. Those new products will probably start emerging maybe in about 8 or 10 months. It'll start with the Mac Mini. The Mac Mini will be the first one to go out there. And because it's the one that's least sold, so they're going to start changing that. And then once these new processors get out to a significant number within, let's say, 2 or 3 years, they're planning to change the OS itself too. So that then, I don't know if anyone's used the new Facebook interface.
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed that it starts to look like a great big phone interface. Apple is taking the same tack. They're going to eventually make the iPhones and iPads so powerful that they feel like a computer inside a tablet or a phone, and then they're going to take the iMacs and the MacBook Pros and give them a phone interface for its ease of use and its touch capability. We might end up with touch screens soon. Anyway, eventually, by the start of next year, we're going to get a new set of processors, and in 2 or 3 years, a new OS on top of that. Now, what is important for that in terms of your purchasing? When I heard this news, I thought, great, this will be fun. This will be interesting. More trivia for a nerd for me to chew on. But I too need a new computer. My iMac is getting a little long in the tooth. So I'm going to buy mine right now, I thought. Now here's the rationale. The computers that we can purchase right at this moment that are based on Intel chips have been in Mac's inventory for about, Bill, am I wrong? About 15 years, since about 2005, 2006. And that means that they're mature. On all of the bugs of the hardware, unless you've got a lemon, the occasional lemon, yes, it does happen. Linda got a lemon. Maybe, Lisa, you got maybe a lemon. I haven't delved into your problem yet. Don't know. But quality control is never 100%. But it's not because there are problems to be worked out at the design and architecture and coding stage. These computers are mature and they're very, very reliable. Whatever you buy right now will be reliable. And it'll be the best Intel computers that probably Mac will ever issue because they're going to change over from here. The first generation of computers that will emerge on this new chip architecture might not be so. And we're talking about a huge change in the architecture, and you could end up with problems here, problems there, certain pieces of software that will not work until 6 months later because the maker of that software has to do a big software change. But that problem will be solved in about 2 or 3 years. Like I said, Apple will not bring its new OS until everything is really settled, so that then they make this other titanic change, this time in software, to the entire ecosystem. So starting from next year, when these new chips come, until about 2 or 3 years later, that hardware architecture is not what we would call in a mature situation. But what have you got as a mature situation right now? These Intel processors. And they will last about 5 or 6 years. So if you buy a computer right now, and if you take good care of it, like I take good care of my computers, and if it wasn't for a couple of things, like I came into a bit of money and such, and I need it right now, I could hang on to both of these computers and use them well for another couple of years. They will last through that wave of change that will happen. So now is the best time to buy a computer. And depending on which one you're considering, like the MacBook Pro 13, that's actually more mature than the MacBook Pro 16. The MacBook Pro 16 has been out for about a year, so it's probably not going to be a problem, but the 13 is sitting on architecture that has been settled over that year. And that 13 also, because of the new video cards that are available for it, can take external monitors, which basically give it the great advantage that iMacs have over mobile computers, which is that you get that incredible amount of screen space. If you've never worked on a 27-inch computer, you just don't know what a luxury it is. Bill.
Yeah, I was in the exact situation, and I had a MacBook Pro that I really, really liked because it had HDMI built in. It had all of it was the last one 7 years ago that had, or 6 years ago, that had a lot of ports on it. So I held on to it a bit longer than I should have. And it just started to really have battery problems. It had problems. So,
7 years old, right? 7 years old, you said?
Yeah.
That's a natural lifespan of a Macintosh.
Yeah.
6 years old, that's old age. 7 years old, that's senility. Yeah.
So, so I bought the 13-inch MacBook Pro, highest end one they had, and then added to it more RAM, that sort of thing. And what I do is, I don't know if you know this, but I have it hooked up to a big monitor in front of me. And if you have like a wireless keyboard and like Bluetooth mouse or trackpad or whatever, you can connect them.
Bill and I are twins.
Synchronized. You can connect them to the laptop, and you can keep the laptop closed. So you can have it just standing. You don't have to have it like right in front of you if you don't want to. I have mine like open over on the side here because it has the security based on your fingerprint. So I want to be able to touch that. But other than that, I have it set up at home with a monitor. And if I ever have to go anywhere again, like go to a class or go to a conference, I can unplug it pretty easily and just carry it to where I want to go.
Yeah. Depending on your budget, I would say Bill's got a really ideal situation. Me, I just, well, I know I like spending money on Macintoshes, so I got 2 computers. One thing that I would say though, Bill, when you were talking about how you can do it in what's called a clamshell configuration, you can actually shut the computer closed while it's working. That I don't really recommend that, especially if you're doing things like Logic or Final Cut or doing any kind of high-end graphics. That computer is going to get hotter because the lid is closed, which is also another subject that I want to touch on if we have time later. People are having problems with their MacBook Airs and their MacBook Pros simply because they're not running them in the right environment. They're just letting them run way too hot. It's also, just while I'm on the topic, it's because MacBook Airs were never meant to do Zoom for hours and hours and hours. MacBook Airs were meant to be carried to the airport, flip them open really quick, do a couple of Excel calculations, and get onto the airplane. That's what MacBook Airs are for. And people like them because they were cheap and thin and light. And they were never designed to do high-end video conferencing. Risa, what was your other question after a good time to buy? But did I answer that question, by the way?
What is the availability like? Like, should we be worried about that?
No, not really. Especially when you're considering like, are the ones left, the ones that are bad? Well, there's really no way for shipping and logistics in Apple and for the staff to actually open one up and look at it and go, that one's got a bad logic board or anything. So there's no way to know that. They have very consistent Q&A in their factories in China and Taiwan. So I think your chances of getting one that's bad are just as good when there's low supply as when there's high supply. As towards availability, certain computers, for example, the brand new, recently upgraded iMacs are now, because a lot of people were waiting for them, there was a lot of pent up demand, so they're back ordered on those. I ordered mine 2.5 weeks ago, and it doesn't arrive until next week, so nearly a month. But I wouldn't worry about the whole thing about, well, I have a higher chance of getting a lemon if I order something now. Let's take one more case. We got a bit more time. Who raise your hand, or I'm going to pick somebody and you're going to have to talk. Steven, you look like you're about to talk. And you're muted again. Oh, sorry about that. There you go.
I'm using I have 2 Mac computers. Like I have a MacBook Air and a MacBook Pro. and one of them was bought in 2009. One of them was the MacBook Air was bought in 2012, and that's
It's old.
yeah, 11.6. And about 3 years ago, I changed OS to Yosemite, and but it's still working quite well. I do Zoom with it and stuff like that. And I know it's old, and so I'm looking to buy a new one. And I'm quite interested in your idea to buy a new MacBook Air for portability. And you mentioned about a monitor, external monitor. So that sounds a good thing. Do the new MacBook Airs, are they good for using Zoom? Or you said, or if I used it, because I don't want something I have to buy another device to take around. I just want to have everything on one device.
I would suggest instead you get a MacBook Pro 13. How much Zoom do you do when you teach?
Maybe one day is about 6.5 hours.
Is that daily?
Not daily, no. I turn it off for lunchtime, and it doesn't really get that hot. I can hear the fan going, and
Then it's getting hot.
yeah, but and I try not to have. I try to take everything off, not to store so much stuff on there. Have it on external drives and stuff like that.
That doesn't help so much in terms of the heat.
Okay.
It'll help the SS. It's a MacBook Air, right?
Yes.
Okay, it'll help the SSD live a little bit longer because it's not being used so much.
Mhm.
But if anything, because the MacBook Air uses the main processor to do its disk reading and writing, it's going to make it actually run a little bit hotter than it would if it was running off the SSD.
Okay.
It's a real balance of things. I would suggest instead, if you're thinking about putting that thing on an external monitor and you're doing that much Zoom, so you're basically doing 6 hours a day of Zoom when you're teaching?
Not every day, like every other day. Yeah.
Give me an average every day.
Maybe 6 hours or 5 hours or 4
And
hours.
that's a lot of Zoom every day for a MacBook Air.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't suggest it, not a MacBook Air. If you were down to maybe 2 hours a day, then I'd say, yeah, that'd be all right. And you could probably do better by doing a couple things like making sure that the cooling system is getting all the help that it can get with the Air. But if you're doing that much Zoom, I would really suggest that you do all of those cooling tricks that I can talk about, and you just go ahead and get yourself a MacBook Pro, a 13, a
Yeah.
13.
And I'm taking their advice, like not having the full gallery on show and stuff like that. It seems to make a difference as well.
Oh, you mean in Zoom?
Yes.
Yeah. All of you got to start knowing all of those tricks to keep Zoom from maxing itself out. And actually, I can talk about that tonight with the Zoom Revisited thing, the Zoom Revisited session. Knowing where your bandwidth is and knowing how to control it. Now,
Are you going to talk about your cooling tricks now, or?
I was just about to show you a couple of them.
Okay, excellent.
Okay, number one. When I talk to people about, oh, Jose, my computer's running hot, one of my first questions is, where is the computer? And they'll go, what do you mean, where's the computer? Well, what is it sitting on? And they'll say, oh, I got it on a book. It's sitting on a book, so it's raised up off the desk. And I go, you mean like a paperback? Oh, no, 2 paperbacks, one on both sides because they're smaller paperbacks. That's like putting a down jacket under your computer. Or imagine wearing a down jacket in August. It's going to get that hot for the computer. You do not want, if you can get this metal surface to be exposed as much to the air as possible, that's one of the things that Apple wants to do. That's why there is just the slightest amount of space between the rubber foot and the air. There's like about a millimeter, maybe less than a millimeter, but that's just enough airspace if you put that flat on a desk so that then air will move through. But you can give it even more help. Sorry. I'm going to get some corn.
I have mine on this cheap alternative I got from the 100 yen. It's basically a plant stand. You can see that?
Is that a mesh that it's on
Yes.
top of? Okay, that'll help a lot.
Yes,
That'll
I
help a
put
lot.
it on there. I just reinforced it, so and then I don't need a whole apparatus. I can just set it up, make sure it's stable, and go ahead. Yeah.
Good. If you didn't have that, Stephen, I would suggest you get 3 coins 500 yen or 100 yen, 2 stacks, 3 coins, 3 is max if you don't go into 4, and 2 might not be enough. And you put them under the rubber pads. And
Okay.
you have to be a little bit careful because, you know, you got to place them under there. But what that's going to do is it's going to take it from a level position to just slightly up more by about maybe 5 millimeters. And that gives it plenty of air to move around here.
Okay.
Now, the other big thing that you can do is I can show you that later when we go to the Apple Store, is to get a proper notebook stand. And a notebook stand will do 2 things. It will lift it up into the air, so getting all kinds of air running around it. And it also raises the camera from chin level or throat level, right? And depending on the stand, it'll sit like this, and it'll get it up to eye level, which really, really changes how you look on camera if you get a good stand. And, you know, I'm sure that you'll see the plethora of stands on Amazon or Rakuten and see the one that you like. I would suggest one made of metal. Do not get one made out of plastic. They can get expensive, they can get cheap. And yeah, you can get a cheap one, but how expensive is your computer and how much do you want to protect that investment? So it's all up to you. But get a stand, that'll cool it a lot better. It'll raise the camera up, make you appear a lot better on Zoom. Okay, so that was a few cases, and if we have time until 2 o'clock, we'll consider some more. But now, everybody, let's take a walk through the Apple Store. And if you are starting to consider purchasing one, here are the things that I would suggest you do. Okay, so let me start a share. And this is where we were with the Apple Store before. But instead, let's go to Jolt. Okay, let's go to Jolt, which is jalt.org. Okay, and I'm going to go to login. If you're not a member, go be a login. Go do your login, okay? And it remembers my login. That's me there, Jose at Goldfish. And it remembers my password. Safari does, I should say, not it. And I log in, and now it remembers who I am. Now, I didn't remember exactly where the Jolt Apple Store is, and Bill can probably tell me, but if you don't remember, even if I tell you now, next week you forget, just go Apple Store in the search field. Okay, hit return, come down here, and there it is. There's the Jolt Apple Store. And this is news about the Jolt Apple Store, but this is the first result for the Jolt Apple Store. Go to the Jolt Apple Store.
Jose, also on any page of the site, if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see it on the left-hand side. You just passed it.
There it is.
Right there.
Okay, good. Thank you very much.
You see that only if you logged in, though.
Right. Well, that makes sense. Right. Yeah, you have to vet yourself as a proper Jolt member. But you can, I was just about to go and click here to go to the online Apple Store. It's the black one here on the left-hand side. So let's go with where Bill says go. And, oh, there it is. We ended up in the same place.
Yeah, I'm just saying, instead of searching, you can
Okay,
go to
there
any
you go.
page and then see
There
it
you
on the
go.
left-hand side.
There you go. Okay, so now go to the online store. And this, for most of what you see, is what we were just looking at, except for this little indicator that says that you are now at the JALT Apple Store, which means that you have engaged, if you purchase anything, I believe anything. Oh, no, that's right. With third-party accessories, you don't get the Apple discount, you get the Jolt discount only, so about 3 or 4% only. But for major Apple products, so for their monitors and their computers, you're going to get that additional Jolt, the additional thing on top. So navigate like you normally do. Like I showed you, go to Max, okay? And then you have the plethora of devices. I think a lot of you, I would probably say, are going to be considering either the 13 or the 16. So we're going to go here. Some of you might want the iMac. We can talk about that later. But the purchasing process is about the same. But I would say that most of you are probably going to be better off with the 13 than the 16. For example, if I'm thinking of Todd is probably better off with the 13 because he travels around a lot. And if he has an external monitor, the 13 would be great. You can also consider the Air, but if you're talking about sound and Logic Pro, maybe, Todd, GarageBand a lot, I would suggest the 13 instead, unless that half kilo, that 1 pound difference is really important to you. You can see all the lovely images that they make here and the great design and the numbers that you probably won't understand and won't care about. Okay, but this is a really good computer, but it does start at 134,000, 135,000 yen. That's base. Okay. Now, if you go to the Konyu button, this is where you can start customizing. And you can still switch to the 16 if you want. But right now, that blue border says that all of the models in front of you are 13-inch models. Okay. These differ by the power of their processors, okay, and the size of their storage. For example, this is 256 gigabytes in terms of RAM storage for files and for sound and stuff like that. And this begins at 512. And I believe if you want to go up any higher than 512, you have to get the top line model, which is a 2
Keep going down. There's one more.
Oh, there you go. There you go. But I think you can start customizing storage from here. In any case, you can start looking around. Now, depending on which one you want, okay, 134 actually turns out to be 118. Now, why is that? Well, because that's where the whatchamacallit, the discount kicks in. Pretty significant discount. And any of these, including that one at the bottom that Bill very wisely told me to not forget, you can click Sentaku, and from here, depending on the model, you're going to get choices for customization, okay? Most notably, you'll be allowed to choose a higher level processor and the onboard memory. Now, with any of these computers, 8 gigabytes is really not enough to do much more than, say, run Zoom and a web browser at the same time, comfortably. So if you want to be able to, in the morning, wake up, read your email, and then maybe watch a little YouTube, and then maybe start dabbling in GarageBand. Oh, geez, it's time for my Zoom class. Crank up Zoom. Oh, and during Zoom, I've got to do Nearpod on another browser. 8 gigabytes is going to get a bit tough. It's going to get really tight, okay? I would really suggest, even though that looks expensive, that you get 16 gigabytes on any of these computers as a minimum. Apple gives you 8 gigabytes as a minimum. I would say 16 gigabytes is a minimum, the new minimum for most anybody that really wants to do anything in the future. And I'm talking about 5 or 6 years. When this computer finally dies, you're going to be glad that you didn't go with the 8 gigabyte minimum. You're going to be glad that you went with this 16 gigabyte. And luckily enough, because of the MacBook Pro, I was wrong. You can actually up storage even on the lowest level 13-inch model. And with both of these options, the more you can afford, the better, okay? Get 16 gigabytes, get a terabyte if you can. Now, a lot of people will think, let me just jump back here. Oh, but I want a really good computer, and a really good computer means a really fast processor, right? I don't want the 1.4 because I want a fast processor. I would suggest that if you look at this price difference, 170 to 118, okay, you're looking at over 50,000 yen difference. You take that 50,000 yen, and instead of investing it in this higher level processor, for most people, that will be better spent on a lower level processor, depending, and I say most people, not on a higher level processor, but a lower level processor, even this one, and more memory. That will be money better spent. More memory, more storage will help the computer last and be functional for quite a bit more time, I would say. That's always been my advice. From there, you can also get accessories like Magic keyboards. You can buy trackpads and stuff from here, keyboards. You can get the 10-key keyboard if you wanted to get that as well too, beyond just even the Magic keyboard. Like, Bill, you probably purchased that Magic keyboard at the same time you bought the notebook, right?
No.
Oh, okay. Anyway, you can do it here. Okay. And if you were to go, let's say with my advice, 16 gigabytes and a terabyte, okay, you're starting to jump up in price here, 174. But that's still pretty close to what the 2 gigahertz model was doing. And this thing will run an external monitor. This thing using the boxes that Linda was showing previously, if you get a good one. The idea is that this is what Linda was complaining about before, that because you can't do this while it's charging because it has only so many ports and stuff. That is a disadvantage if all you have is the MacBook itself. But if you get that box that Linda was showing, and mine is coming next week, you can leave the box at home and have your Ethernet plugged into it, have your external hard drives plugged into it, have your audio plugged into it, have any other USB accessories plugged into it, and the box stays at home. You take the computer with you and you do your work in whatever mobile situation you want. And then when you come home,
Oh, sorry.
did you want to interject, Bill?
Just one thing, the difference between the 1.4 gigahertz and the 2 gigahertz is also the number of Thunderbolt ports.
On the 13?
The 1.4 has 2, but the 2 gigahertz has 4.
Now,
Twice as many Thunderbolt ports.
so those Thunderbolt ports will come in handy if you don't want to buy what's called that dock or that breakout box. But here's why the breakout box is important. All of your stuff, even if you have 4 ports, you bring that computer home. You've got to plug in the charger. You've got to plug in the Ethernet adapter. Then you've got to plug in maybe the sound device that hooks up to your headphones and your microphone and whatever else that 4th port will be. That is a pain in the A. If you come home and you have that proper breakout box, you have 1 cable to plug in. The charger will be in it. All of the accessories are still in it. You have to only plug 1 thing in. And you would have had to do that if you were on an old-fashioned MacBook, because you would have to at least plug in your charger because you've been using your computer all day. But even if you have 4 ports, you still have to plug a bunch of stuff into it. Now, if you have a breakout box, you only need a computer with 2 ports. One maybe for extra and the other one for that breakout box that you bought, which is, by the way, hooked up to your external monitor permanently. So as you plug in that one thing, you plug in the charger, you plug in your Ethernet cable, you plug in everything, you plug in your external monitor, 1 plug, and those other 3 ports, maybe at least 2 of those ports might never be used. So if you know that you need that 4th port, if you can play the scenario in your mind that says, I need that 4th port because, yeah, go nuts. But for most people, 2 ports, especially on the left-hand side, that's exactly where I want it. That's where Apple has always traditionally kept its charging port. And that's where I think on the new ones, the extra ports are on the right-hand side. And the standard ports are on the left-hand side. Because most people actually have it so that the charger port is closer to that side of the desk. So 174,000 yen will get you a pretty nice 13-inch MacBook Pro. On top of that, maybe when your budget allows and you really figure, you know what, I really do need some screen space, maybe 50,000 yen will get you a Thunderbolt-capable external monitor. It'll get you 27 inches of screen space. It's a lovely luxury to have that much screen space, but you don't need it right away, right? And you don't need that breakout box right away. You can add these things as you go on, but it's nice to know that if you wanted to do it, you could do that very easily. With the MacBook Air, you can get away with a lot of that. And it'll be much lighter. And if you need that lightness because you do literally walk around with your computer, do consider it. But if you're actually going to be spending most of your time with that computer at a desk, then that lightness that you paid for and that you sacrificed for isn't really helping you. So you got to think, am I really a walking salesman that needs it? Then yeah, MacBook Air. If I'm not, and I do like it because I am more mobile than most people, then the MacBook 13 is fine. Me, and like most of us, we don't go outside of the house very much now. And I'm really glad I have my iMac because it has way more power than a mobile computer. It's got a 27-inch screen. I think most people will probably fall into the 13-inch. And I think if I was to recommend it, I would probably say, see if you can squeeze 180,000 yen out of your wallet for the basic configuration. Accessories, what they can cost you? Well, I don't know. It depends on what accessories you want to buy. You can go nuts. But what you should remember is to go to the, now we got to back up here. Go to the, Jolt login, log in from there, and go to the Apple Store. Am I not logged in? No, I'm not logged in.
You're not logged in.
Bummer.
Can I interrupt for a minute?
Sure.
I bought this adapter that's supposed to be multi-purpose, And
Go to
I
any
bought
page.
this one that's much more expensive. This one was nearly 10,000 yen. None of them will power an
Yeah.
external monitor.
Now you got to
appropriately.
you got to be careful, Linda. You get the cheap ones about 6,000, 7,000 yen. They do not actually handle enough power to actually charge the
Even the
computer.
expensive one doesn't.
The one I'm about to show you will. Okay, but when we say expensive, this is Jose expensive. This is like 300 bucks. Okay. So not 15,000 yen.
So I'd rather just spend the money and get the 4 ports.
That's one way to it. That's one way to attack it, but you still need it's up to you. Me personally, I'd rather, I think over 5 years, considering all the plugging and unplugging. And I think you were saying that your USB also was tight as a drum. It was hard to pull in and pull out.
Yeah. Well,
I wouldn't want 4 ports of that. But I
um,
think that's also part of your lemon problem. They shouldn't be like that. Okay. Anyway, so a breakout box that I can show you later is expensive, but you have to be careful. If you want to run a monitor through it, if you want to run the charger through it, you have to watch out for its wattage rating. And can it actually charge the computer? What a lot of these ports will do is they'll take the charger that came with your computer and they'll use that as the power. But because they also distribute power to other USB ports, the power rating that actually goes to the computer drops because it's actually powering the other devices. So you've got to get a really good dock that says, yes, this releases power to all of the ports at rated levels, which is why this one is expensive. And people were kind of bugging me about that on OTJ. Man, that price, it's so expensive. Well, that's because it's totally reliable. It does exactly what it's doing, and 6,000 yen is 6,000 yen. Anyway, let's get back to what I was saying. Don't forget that you have to go to Jolt. Bill, I just noticed that when I'm logged in and I scroll down the left side, it's not
You have
there.
to go to any page except that page. You have to go
Okay,
to any page.
Okay. So guess what we're going to do?
No, just click a link. Click
Too late.
membership, constitution.
Yeah, I know what
groups.
you mean. I'm just giving you a hard time. Okay, so don't forget to come here to this one, and that will be like, for example, if we went to information about us, as Bill says, there you go. There's your link. Okay, go through there, or else you're not going to get that Jolt discount on top of the Apple Store discount. And if you were to go there, oh yeah, you got to come down here to click the extra little gray button. And come on, baby. Then you'll get to the Jolt store. Confirm it by making sure that you got that at your header. When you purchase whatever your purchase is, okay, make sure that you want the one that you want. These things, if you're not careful, like I have really bad eyes, you might end up over here and spending way more money than you really need to. Okay, but for example, you go to the 13 blue Konyu button. Okay. And then from there, Linda, can you shut your mic? We've got a little bit of noise from your air conditioning. The 13-inch right there, and then Sentaku, and then you can do all the customization from there. Let me show you a couple of other places that you might want to consider. If you were thinking about new external hard drives, and I don't make money on this, it's just that I find this brand very, very reliable. It's called LaCie. And they have their own store on Amazon. And if you just put in LAICIE in Amazon, you can purchase all kinds of really, really reliable discs. And when I give recommendations to people, it's not going to be the fastest or the best, whatever that definition is. It is what I know I can recommend to that person, and that person will not come back to me and say, hey, Jose, you told me to go buy a lemon. Because then I'm kind of responsible for helping them, and I don't always have a lot of time for that. And this brand is completely reliable. When I was talking about the breakout boxes before, this is OWC. It's a fairly high-end manufacturer, and this is the breakout box that I was talking about. So you can do okay, let's actually go there. You can do, there it is, a Thunderbolt 3 dock. This is Thunderbolt 3, so it maintains the highest speed that's capable on the new Macs. And you can see that it has SD cards, mini cards, headphone jacks, USB 3.1, and I forget what that little one at the front is. Anyway, it's got a lot of stuff. Then there's the stuff at the back, which is Ethernet, Thunderbolt, and power. And this is the important thing. It's got 85 watts of power. It will charge your computer, plus it will run, if it needs to, the power for the external monitor. Plenty of power for what it is you need. And that is why it is expensive. Plus, it has proper Thunderbolt docks, not USB 3.1. Don't be confused. USB 3.1 is half the speed of Thunderbolt. You bought a Thunderbolt computer, you should buy Thunderbolt docks. USB 3.1, the salesman will tell you, oh, this works with your MacBook. And yeah, when you get home, it does, but you are not getting the speed that you paid for with the new MacBook. Plus USB 3. You believe USB 3.1 even on the old style connectors, but this is also USB 3.1 here, Ethernet, and I believe that's optical there. And that is why it is almost $300. It is expensive, but if you end up going, okay, let's get this cheap one for $8,000. Oh, I need a better one. Oh, let's get this better one, $15,000. Oh, wait, it doesn't charge my computer well enough. Maybe I'll get this better one for $18,000. What did you spend in total? You get a good one to begin with, and then you've got a good one from the beginning. But you don't have to get that right away. Okay, just get the computer, enjoy it, and I think I don't know. Todd, are you still there? You split. Okay, Lisa, what do you think about me saying that you need to spend $175,000?
I'm still here.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah, yep.
What do you think? Todd?
Multitasking.
Yeah, it's okay. Lunch, right?
No, I was typing away, so I didn't know if you guys would hear me typing. So
got it, man. Okay, or Risa or Todd, what did you think about what I mentioned there? Do you think that's too rich for your blood, or maybe there's something you want to ask?
My thing is I always go cheap, so it's really hard for me to break out of my cheap habit and upgrade. Spend more money.
It's always worked for you. Why shouldn't it work for you now? I'm just suggesting these things because I think the way that I think. And remember that I'm somebody who likes to do video and sound, but probably much less sound. And Todd, the person you should talk to about sound, because he does do sound and he's a professional musician, is David Juteau.
Yeah.
He does sound, but he uses an iMac. And eventually I think he's going to tell you, nah, not unless you're actually a DJ and you got to work that thing around with you at clubs and stuff. And that's only to actually do DJing as opposed to musical production. He does music, he writes songs and he composes songs. But he's going to be able to give you the lowdown on audio. I don't think it's the old way with PCs where you got to think about your sound card, quotation marks card. The audio processing systems in Macs are far more advanced. They've always been more advanced than they are on Windows.
Well, hey, you want to see something funny about that? Check this out. This is what I was doing. I was actually processing audio. So I went to this, not related to Macs, but I bought this baby at the K store.
Ooh, nice.
This is the newer portable recorders, and I just used a game headset. I got this as well.
Good idea.
Oh my gosh!
I know what you're thinking.
The quality is so good.
Yeah.
It is so good, and anyway, so I'm like, but I was gonna try to do the recordings on my computer with the mixer, and then I got this, and I was like, my God, this is amazing! It's so good, the audio quality. So yeah.
When it comes to audio, that's a more specialized area, and I got a ton of advice on that because, you can see the microphone, right? And this headset that I use on my podcasts, this doesn't actually plug into the Macintosh. We don't have time, but it plugs into a separate, almost professional, so semi-professional audio box that I have. So I can give you advice on that, but this is about purchasing a computer. So let's open the floor up to other people who may not have had a chance to ask a question. We've only got about 10 minutes left or so because Simon's thing is going. I can stay for a little bit beyond that, but other people might want to go to Simon. So anybody else with other questions? If nobody else, then anybody else.
Can I just comment that you were asking me the question about, and I was writing some things about what is the difference between RAM and processor. It always confuses me. And so I think the advice that I got from the chat box was that the processor is okay if it's set to default, but the RAM, if you can upgrade, it's better because we're using a lot of apps these days. And that's really helpful because I had two MacBooks. I actually have two MacBooks, and one was I bought myself, and it was the cheapest one. And the other one, I got a job 6 months later and I had like the best one. So it was like a good comparison for me. And so I wanted to know, I did notice that the good specs, I had never invested in it in myself, but it was a lot more stable. The better quality one, it's lasting a lot longer, but I do eventually still need to change it. So right now I'm trying to decide what are the specs that are important and which ones, not so much.
Tell me what you want to do with it, Lisa.
That's a good question, but yeah. But I don't do a lot of high processing stuff. But even so, when I take it into the classroom and I just want to play a video, I want to connect it to something, even to do simple stuff, I find that it's more stable or it's less glitchy or it lasts longer. And
absolutely true, yeah.
Maybe I'm using 5 different apps without really thinking about it. It's not really heavy videos, just for example, maybe I have a great spreadsheet open. I want to use a browser at the same time. I want to play YouTube video at the same time. I mean, it's basic things, but
you do a lot of it. You do a lot of basic things at the same time.
Right.
Okay, so when you say that you spec'd out the really good one, did you spec it out just by saying, okay, that one, that price there, I'll get that one, but you didn't actually raise the RAM or raise the storage? When you say you got the high spec one, what do you mean by high spec?
Okay. So I don't think I customized it, but I don't know, this is not really a PC thing to say on rec, but so we had a lot of budget that we needed to use, so we got the best one out there. It's like the
everybody does that.
It's the so I guess right now I'm looking at the website, there are 4 options. It's just the best one.
Okay, so probably you didn't raise the memory or the storage.
Correct.
So here's my advice. I don't know what the chat was, but me specifically. I agree with the chat if it said that, yeah, get the specifications with the better RAM and the better storage. You will not regret it. And if you need to manipulate your budget, drop your processor expectations. It is not the processor that was probably making that thing really, really comfortable. It was probably that, depending on which one you actually purchased. I don't know. Do you know the specifications of the good computer that you got right now? Like its memory and RAM?
It's right in front of me, but yeah, I don't know those numbers. Okay. It's from 2012, and it was the high-end model.
Could be anything, but it could be that you purchased the one from the Seikyo that got you 16 gigabytes. It is more than likely that it's really comfortable and really snappy to use because it has more RAM, not because it has a faster processor. So get the lower priced processor with as much RAM as you can afford. If you can afford 32 gigabytes, if you went to the 16-inch one, you can afford 32 gigabytes. I do 32 gigabytes on my iMac, and I feel a little cramped sometimes because of the things that I do. And the next one I've got will be 64 gigabytes, potentially going to 128 gigabytes because of the memory configuration. And I think that'll be okay for me because that's where I sort of live. For most people, 16 gigabytes will be plenty comfortable if you just want to run a lot of browser pages, run a couple of YouTubes, do a Nearpod like Todd's got going there, plus maybe have an audio track to play from the music app on the Mac. All of those normal things, but you want to keep them all in the background and easy to pluck and then play during Zoom, and of course Zoom at the same time. You can get that if you get 16 gigabytes and a little extra storage, about a terabyte. So I would suggest, yes, customize the RAM and the storage and sacrifice on the processor. That's been my standard recommendation to people for the longest time. It's always worked out. Stephen, what about you? What are you thinking? There you go.
Different topic. I mentioned earlier I'm using my computer on a stand, my MacBook Air. And do you have any recommendation for an external camera?
Why would you want an external camera? They just they got really good cameras on these Macs now.
No, but so I can use. No, I have my MacBook Air on a stand.
Oh, an Air.
So if I'm like, I don't want to be like this.
Well, like this. What do you mean like this, Stephen?
No, like I have it on a stand, and it's not convenient to work on. I need to.
Okay, and don't get an external camera. Instead, get an external keyboard.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
because get an external keyboard, and like Bill and I were showing, either get yourself an external Mac, an Apple Mac mouse, or a trackpad. Okay. Correct me if I'm wrong, real. 6,000 yen for a keyboard.
Okay.
6,000 for a keyboard, about 5,000 for a trackpad, and 7,000 for a trackpad and about 5,000 for a mouse. That's a much better solution because that raises the computer in the air, gets a lot of air around it. Okay, you don't have to buy another camera because you got a good camera. Even in the MacBook Air, it's not as good as the one in the MacBook Pro, but these things have much better keys than a MacBook Air. They feel so much better to type on.
Oh, excellent. I think I'll look at that.
Yeah.
And those products you got from the Apple shop?
Yeah, and speaking of a stand, do we have time? Yeah, I got 7 minutes. Speaking of a stand, so you come over here to where you purchase, and you go to accessories over here, the little headphone icon in katakana, it says accessory. And come on, baby, hurry up. Okay, and now I'm just trying to remember where it was, trackpad, where was it? They sell a what's called a South Curve stand. Let's see here, Mac accessories. Subete o miru, iPad accessory. Is anyone's katakana better than mine, or anyone's eyes better than mine? Headphones, mouse and keyboard, cable, desktop, screen, storage, printer. Well, let's go to the Mac. Mac accessories. It's in here somewhere. I've seen it before. It's just sometimes they move stuff around. Let's page that. There it is. This is the one that Adam was giving me a hard time about because 7,000 yen for a stand, and that's okay. You know, people bug me about the fact that I recommend 180,000 yen computers to people, and I would recommend this one. You're already in the Jolt store, so you're going to get, I think, a Jolt discount on this. And this is exactly what you want to get this a little higher. Still not as high as I would like, okay, but higher. And it's going to get a lot of air around the base, okay? That's plenty of air there, and it's made of metal. You don't want to type on that because obviously that's going to be springy. That's not something you want to type directly. You couldn't type directly on it anyway. You also don't need to get the trackpad right away because you can, that's a comfortable enough angle that you can trackpad on it if you can't afford the trackpad, but just get this for now and then see if trackpadding up in the air will help you out.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Hey, you're quite welcome. OWC, oh, geez, I forgot. OWC, let's go back to their main page. If you want to spend your money on the best possible accessories that professionals use, OWC is your company. Unfortunately, they also ship from America, which means that they end up costing a lot of money, not just for the shipping, but because they ask for you to pay on delivery for the customs charges. The guy will bring it to the door and say, that'll be 8,800 yen. And I go, oh, no, I forgot about that. And then I have to start digging around my 500 yen coin collection. That's OWC. Amazon.com for the LaCie store. This is going to be a really long URL, but what can I say? That's the LaCie store at Amazon Co.jp. So if you want some good, reliable external discs. Little discs like this with the bumpers on that for the same capacity will be more expensive than 3.5-inch discs like this. Miniaturization costs money. So if you want something small, you're going to end up with the same capacity at about 15 to 20% more expensive because you got something small that went in your bag. So if you don't intend to actually carry this around, get something bigger like this. It has better heat dissipation. It has more reliability, and it actually is probably going to cost you a lot less for the same amount of capacity. And I think that's about it. Yeah. Open questions, anyone?
Thank you, Jose. That was awesome. I have to go because I have to get something to eat real quick for the next session. But thank you for that. That was great.
And anyone, beyond this, if you, I thank you. Beyond this, if you want more advice, just DM me on Facebook on OTJ. And I like helping people with this stuff. It's just that I thought a lot of people were coming to me recently, and I said, well, but you know what? There's that little slot at around lunchtime, and maybe I should go do something in there. And I really do say, yeah, if even the lemon troubleshooting, I might be able to help. Right. So shall we wrap it up? Because you've got a great session coming up right behind this. If you're thinking about education for the future, Simon Morin is going to be doing a very, very powerful title called Destroying Education. But I've talked to the guy, and he's got some great ideas, and I'm going to go there myself after I square off a couple of kids that I have to take care of over here on the other computer. Anyway, Simon Morin is the next session. Go enjoy yourselves, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Let's quickly unmute though and give him a round of applause, eh?
See you, everybody.